Hello, friends. Just think about it. If someone kills the presidents of America in England, what impact will it have on the entire world? That's exactly what happened in today's story, where our Russian mafia kidnaps the presidents of both countries. So what happened then? Let's see that. At the beginning of the story, we see the city of Bunal in Spain, where the famous tomato festival was going on. Usually, during this festival, hundreds of tons of tomatoes are scattered and a huge celebration is organized. However, in the middle of this festival, a journalist named Noel came, who is basically a Secret Service agent. He came here with many other agents from the CIA and MI6, because it was a joint mission of America and England. On this mission, they came to catch a Russian arms dealer, Viktor Gradov. So after talking for a while, suddenly Viktor appeared in front of them. The agents all got ready to catch Viktor, but the next moment, they saw that several more people who looked like Viktor had come here. They all became confused. When they all got busy searching for the real Viktor, they realized that they were actually being targeted here. But before they could defend themselves, they ambushed them. Viktor's people started killing all the agents one by one. Noel was the only one who managed to fight off some of Viktor's men for a while. But by then, Viktor's men had stolen some very important secret documents from the CIA and MI6. At one point, when Noel was about to take them hostage, a boy suddenly came from behind and shot Noel dead on the spot. And Viktor watched all this very well from the rooftop. Then we are taken straight to London, where we see the Prime Minister of England, Samuel, relaxing in his room. And he sees on TV that the President of the United States, William, is coming to England for his first visit after becoming president. Not only that, but from here, he will go to a NATO summit in Italy. It is worth noting that William was a Hollywood hero before becoming president. Seeing all this, Samuel got a little annoyed and went out for a jog, and while running on the road, he got the news that a total of 13 CIA and MI6 agents had been killed in a terrible attack in Spain. Among them was Niall. Hearing this, Samuel seemed to be very distressed. However, the next morning, we see that the general public of England has appeared in front of the royal palace to welcome the American President William. They were all big fans of William. Meanwhile, Will had reached the royal palace by then, and he learned about the accident in Spain from his assistant Eli. Also, his assistant told the Prime Minister of England that their target in Spain was the Russian arms dealer Viktor Gradov, who has now become a terrorist, and he now makes weapons for the black market. Actually, a few years ago, Viktor had bought some plutonium. As soon as the secret agencies received the news, his manufacturing plants were attacked and destroyed.
So now, while discussing all this, they go for a press conference, and here for the first time, American President William and English Prime Minister Samuel meet. The two of them exchange strategies with each other, and later William tells Sam to be a little careful of journalist Jack. But he asks a lot of contradictory questions. And besides, Samuel himself warns Will not to say a single word outside the script. But at the press conference, everything turns upside down. Because William keeps saying different dialogues like in his movies, and seeing all this, Samuel gets annoyed and gives the opportunity to the journalist named Jack to ask questions. And Jack keeps asking one question after another about that failed mission in Spain. Hearing all this, William gets quite embarrassed and somehow ends the press conference and comes out. William angrily goes to Samuel's office and says that I told you not to talk to Jack. Samuel says that, look, this is my country. You don't teach me what to do and what not to do. If you are the new president, you don't know how to handle the presidency. And I have been doing this job for the past 6 years. After hearing their conversation, their secretaries realized that the message might have reached the media by now, that they might not be good friends. So they made a plan according to which they would later go to Poland by plane. And when the Prime Minister of England would be on the plane of the American president, the whole world would see their friendship and realize that they had become one. So after hearing these words, they finally decided to go together. Meanwhile, we see Viktor, who is in a huge villa in France, discussing his next plan. But there was a sniper in his team whose failure could have killed Viktor that day in Spain. So he gets angry and kills that sniper right there. Meanwhile, in front of thousands of media, both the President of America and the Prime Minister of England boarded the plane together. Everyone in the country understood how deep their friendship was. So finally the plane took off, and inside the plane, Sam and Will started talking very well. Will even talked about Sam on a video call with his wife and child. Everything was going well, but then suddenly a plane employee entered the control room. In the blink of an eye, he killed everyone in the control room and took control of the entire plane. Immediately, he cut the signal from this plane from the radar and gave a signal to another plane. Within a short time, that signal reached some terrorists in a huge plane that was flying, and they started chasing the Air Force One plane of the President of America. Inside the plane, the President and the Prime Minister were very surprised to see this, because nothing flying was allowed to come near this plane. As soon as they went outside to see what was happening, a security officer asked them to stay safe in the office room. But at that moment, the huge plane flying outside started releasing drones one by one to destroy Air Force One. Immediately, Air Force One's defense system was activated. They started shooting down the drones one by one. Meanwhile, Sam became very suspicious when he saw a man inside the plane, and then that man launched an ambush. All the security officers were killed, and a part of the plane was destroyed by a drone. The pilots of the plane tried everything to destroy the enemy plane, but it was of no use because suddenly a drone hit the cockpit directly, causing the plane to fall completely. Seeing this, a security officer quickly took the President and the Prime Minister to a safe side where there were many parachutes. But by that time, the terrorist who had boarded the plane took a parachute for himself and set fire to all the other parachutes. As the terrorist escapes, we see that fortunately, both parachutes are still intact. So, immediately a security officer gives the President and the Prime Minister the parachutes and tells them to go to a safe house in Warsaw, the capital of Poland. He saves the President and the Prime Minister with his own life. On this journey, they somehow come down with the two parachutes, and the plane crashes and everyone else dies.
Within a short time, the news spread all over the world that both the President of America and the Prime Minister of England had died. All the world leaders who came to the NATO summit in Italy mourned. They had no information about who had caused this incident, so they wanted to hold the NATO summit more quickly to deal with this crisis. So, the Vice President of America, Elizabeth, took the oath of office as president and decided to participate in this summit. Meanwhile, we see the two presidents and the Prime Minister in a forest in Belarus. There, Will quickly wants to call his security team to help him. But Samuel convinces him that, look, those who can attack our secure plane can definitely track our phone, so if you call, the terrorists will come and kill us before help comes for us. So nothing can be said to anyone. And that's why the two of them walk alone towards the Polish capital. They promise that they will punish the terrorist at any cost after seeing the crashed plane. Meanwhile, Vice President Elizabeth fixed a secret meeting because they wanted to send a message to Russia, China, and Iran that America has not collapsed yet. In the midst of all this, a Secret Service officer came to confirm the identity of the new president, because now, under the command of this president, a secret organization called Asalon will be operating in America, Canada, England, Australia, and New Zealand. But Victor's people were already monitoring this work. They hacked the entire Asalon system with the secret information they got from the CIA and MI6 in the attack in Spain. Meanwhile, we see William and Samuel, who have come from the forest to a small village. There they see some young boys partying in a house. William decides that he will ask the boys for help, and maybe they will take him out of Belarus and take him to Poland. But Sam understands that this will never happen because Belarus is a dictatorial country, and America and England are considered enemies here. So if these boys recognize them, then there can be some danger. But William moves forward without listening to anything, and it happens exactly as Samuel feared. Because even though those boys do not recognize them, they attack them with the intention of stealing various things from them. And here, a terrible fight begins between the young boys and the president and the prime minister. They get into a fight with each other. But fortunately, a woman comes and drives the boys away and saves the president and the prime minister. This woman actually recognized both of them. So, after talking to them, he came to know that they now wanted to go to Poland. So,
The woman promised to send them to Poland, and with this, a huge journey began, because the woman started taking several sheep in a car for sale in Poland. She had the president and the prime minister sitting in the back of that car. After traveling a huge distance, they finally reached the border, where some army officers stopped the car to check it. The woman gave some money to the army and finally reached Poland. Now, upon reaching the capital, both Sam and Will thanked the woman very much, and then they reached the safe house. It was actually the house of an American secret agent working in Poland. This agent named Carter is very happy to see them alive. But on the other hand, Victor was already monitoring Carter, so he saw that both Sam and Will went to Carter's house. So he immediately informed his terrorist group to go to Poland and kill them both. Meanwhile, Carter is very happy to see Will alive. He takes them safely inside the house and says that as soon as the news of your death became public, another big incident has happened. Those hackers have hacked the Aslan server and made thousands of secret documents viral.
Meanwhile, Eli was talking to several important officials at the White House because those hackers have brought to the world how America influences the elections of various countries. Not only that, Germany has come to know how France has influenced their elections through journalists. Even the Czech Republic has got news about how America has hidden spies inside them. Because of these reasons, the entire countries of Europe are very angry with each other, and war can break out at any time. Maybe it will turn into World War III. In any case, Will decides that he will not hide like this anymore. He wants to call the American embassy in Poland, but Sam repeatedly convinces him that this should not be done at all, because the terrorists can attack them at any time. Without saying these words, a group of terrorists comes here to kill them. Realizing this, Carter does not hesitate for a moment and gets ready with weapons and ammunition to deal with the terrorists. He actually set cameras and explosives in different parts of this room. Several terrorists die in the explosion, and Carter himself sees the camera and kills many terrorists one by one. But at one point, realizing this, a terrorist destroys the camera, so Carter runs away from there to save himself. But one of his hands is shot in the attack of the terrorists. Seeing this, both Sam and Will come to save him, but Carter tells them to escape from here through the back door. I will take care of them. When they were running away after hearing Carter's words, Carter wanted to throw a grenade, but by then the terrorists caught the grenade and killed Carter. Fortunately, both the president and the prime minister were able to escape through the back door. But when they both reached the ground, 2 more soldiers of the terrorists took them hostage. They thought that their journey ended here, but then a police car came and killed both the terrorists. And we see that in this police car was the MI6 agent named Noel, whom we saw getting shot at the beginning of the story. Both Noel and Samuel knew each other before, because they once worked together in the army, and Noel told them how he had come to them from Spain while chasing Victor. So Noel was now walking along the road to take them to safety, and was telling them that Victor Gradoff was responsible for all of this. He wants to kill you and take revenge. Sam says that he's doing all this because we did not let him make nuclear weapons. Noel explains everything here, that Victor never wanted to make nuclear weapons. In fact, Victor's son was a scientist. He made a nuclear reactor that would never melt. It is called the pebble bag technology. Hearing this, Will says, "Hey, this is our technology. I knew that our scientists made it themselves, but I did not understand that they stole it from Victor's son." Meanwhile, Noel also clarifies that to start this reactor, the boy needed some plutonium, which his father Victor bought from the black market. And as soon as we got this information, we thought that Victor might be making a nuclear bomb. So we attacked Victor's factory. In the attack, Victor's son also died. For this reason, Victor now wants to take revenge on us. Hearing these words, William realizes that Victor is not actually a villain in this story, but rather they were a villain in Victor's life. So we see the White House again, where Eli still hopes that Will is alive, but the Vice President and the Secretary of State for England have now given up hope of their survival. Instead, they decide to have a meeting now on how to reunite NATO. Meanwhile, the President and the Prime Minister are wondering who among them has betrayed them. The Prime Minister of England is thinking that maybe his secretary has joined the terrorists, and the President of the USA is thinking that his assistant Ellie may have betrayed them.
While talking about these stories, they reach a station because from here they have to take a train to Italy, and Noel quickly gets on the train to take them to safety. Meanwhile, an old man named James, who works with Victor, sees all this. But strangely, he doesn't say anything to Victor this time.
Anyway, listening to Sam and Noel's conversation on the train, we understand that they liked each other a lot when they were in the army. But after a mission in Libya, Samuel decided for the first time that he would leave the army and run for office. And that's basically why the distance between them grew. Anyway, after the conversation, Noel went out to get food for them. And then a man pointed a gun at them and took them both hostage. But fortunately, James came from behind and shot that man. But before he died, that man also shot James. Poor James actually came here to tell them some secret information. So anyway, now the three of them are walking with James, and James says that I hacked Echelon by working with Victor. I actually left these jobs and went to Croatia to live my life in peace. But Victor found me and forced my family to do these things. But some people very close to you have helped me a lot in this work. With their help, we hacked Echelon, and with their help, we crashed your plane. But I don't know who they are, but if you want to know, go to the address I gave you in Croatia, because Victor talks to them through a communication system I created, which can only be accessed through a secret code. The code that James now writes down in William's hand and tells him to quickly find those people and stop all this. He dies without saying this. And now since they have to go to Croatia instead of Poland, the three of them jump off the moving train to go to Croatia. Meanwhile, Elizabeth, who has now become the President of America, fixes a meeting with the Chancellors of Germany, France and Italy. There she tries to convince them that some foreign terrorist is trying to break our friendship. We should not destroy NATO, but strengthen our friendship. This will destroy all the plans of that terrorist. But after hearing these words, the Chancellor of Germany first says that you like to hear these words. You are not worthy of trust. Saying this, he leaves. Not only that, the Chancellor of France says that if we withdraw from NATO, our people will vote for us. Saying this, he also leaves. And finally, the Chancellor of Italy also says that where there is no trust and confidence, there is no Italy. That is, almost all the countries of Europe are going to withdraw from NATO at the next NATO summit. Meanwhile, Sam, William and Noel jump off the train and steal a car and reach the city of Zadar, Croatia. When they get there, they go up to the basement of an abandoned building and see that the secret communication system is kept in a small glass room. When they decide to activate the system, a group of terrorists come out to attack them. When Noel wants to fight them alone, Samuel tells him that you should activate the system with Will and see who the real traitor is. And I will take care of the terrorists in the meantime. On one hand, when Noel was trying to activate the system with the code word written by Will, on the other hand, Samuel was fighting all the terrorists alone. However, at one point in the fight, Samuel got quite tired. But then the information from the system was found that Will's assistant Eli had contacted Victor several times in the past few months. That is, Eli had betrayed them. Will was very angry. He says he will punish Eli severely. And then a helicopter comes from outside and starts pulling the entire glass house. The two of them get trapped inside the house, and Samuel from outside tries to save them by cutting the rope. But at the very last moment, the helicopter pulls the entire bunker. Not only that, Victor throws a rocket launcher at Sam inside the building and kills him there. Meanwhile, Will and Noel, who are inside the bunker, somehow land on the roof of a building. Meanwhile, when Victor and his team were leaving by helicopter after completing the mission, two of Victor's team wanted to attack him to destroy all the evidence. That is, not only Victor alone was behind these actions, but someone above him was also behind them. However, Victor killed those two terrorists and saved his life. Meanwhile, Noel had now taken Will with him to a port so that they could go straight to Italy from here. There we hear Noel's words and understand that he actually loves Samuel very much. He has suffered greatly due to Samuel's death.
Anyway, the next morning, the current president was watching the news on TV with all his high-ranking officials at the White House, where it was being said that perhaps after so many years, NATO countries will dismantle this organization. In such a situation, when Elizabeth was very tense, that's when William called her. He said, "Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for handling my current presidency. I am in a port in Italy. You send a car for me here immediately." Elizabeth was very happy to hear that. And she immediately sent a car to pick up William. Everything seemed fine. But as soon as they got into the car, a terrorist held William and Noel hostage at gunpoint. Then the gunman called Elizabeth, and Elizabeth told the man to go to a specific address and kill the two of them. Here all the secrets are revealed because the gunman revealed everything and said that the current president Elizabeth was behind all this. She planned all this and removed Will from the presidency. And to make this plan successful, she only took Victor's help. Will realized that yes, Elizabeth herself did all this to become the president from the vice president, and she framed Ellie with false information. Meanwhile, Victor's terrorist force was also chasing them to kill them. Inside the car, Will and Noel attacked the gunmen together. While they were fighting inside the car, Victor's terrorists started shooting at them from outside. But suddenly a fire truck comes and attacks Victor's terrorists. We see Samuel sitting inside the truck, meaning he didn't die in the building explosion.
He somehow saved his life and came here to save them. So Samuel gets in this car and somehow tries to save himself from the gunmen, and a terrible fight begins. They somehow kill several terrorists and reach the NATO conference in Italy. Seeing this, one of the gunmen runs away from there, and finally they both come inside under the protection of the army. But at the NATO conference, we see that one by one France and Italy are all leaving NATO. But at the very last moment, Will and Sam come into the meeting and they tell everyone that look, now is not the time to get heated. We all need to think coldly. NATO is an organization that is actually very important to all of us. We cannot break it if we want to. The job of this organization is to fight together and expose the enemies. Just like my enemy, the current President Elizabeth. Hearing this, Elizabeth starts saying in front of everyone that a lot has happened. There should not be an organization like NATO in this world. Because we, America, has oil. We can produce all the food. We also have all the technology and manpower. But still, just because of this NATO organization, we have to send our soldiers to die in the wars of European countries every year. They only take financial assistance, weapons assistance, and even humanitarian assistance from us. But they do not give us anything. This will not happen again. However, before the conversation is over, Victor shoots Vice President Elizabeth from a distance. Not only that, but many terrorists start a random brush fire at once. As a result, many world leaders are also killed there. Noel comes there to stop all this. He starts fighting all the terrorists alone. Seeing the situation getting worse, Victor tries to escape from there by helicopter. Noel tries to stop Victor alone, but then a terrorist comes and attacks Noel. Seeing all this, Samuel and William cannot remain silent. They go to fight the terrorist directly. On one hand, they were killing 2 terrorists, and on the other hand, Noel hits the terrorist in the head while fighting him, killing him there. Not only that, on the other hand, the president and the prime minister both catch Victor while chasing him. But after the terrible shooting, Victor gets a small weapon at the last moment, with which he takes William hostage and tries to escape from here in a helicopter. But at the very last moment, neither of them could accept that such a big terrorist is escaping. So without caring for their lives, they go to catch Victor. And Victor shoots an arrow and injures Samuel. But William himself was healthy. He breaks a statue and hits it inside the helicopter's wing, which crashes on the spot and Victor dies. Finally, the terrible fight ends here. Then we see on TV the events of 2 months later that NATO has been reorganized again. All countries are voluntarily joining NATO. And William and Samuel have tried to maintain a transparent, friendly relationship between all these countries. The 2 of them have now become such good friends that one day they were sitting and eating in a cafe in England, which went viral in the media all over the world. And we also get to know that Noel has moved abroad for a new mission. So with this incident, today's story ends. Tell us how you felt in the comments.